If a kid got brutally murdered by a serial child killer in his own pizzeria, and then her ghost started hunting the negligent adults of that town using animatronics that smash people's heads open just to see what's inside, what happens when a new generation walks unknowingly into this nightmare 20 years later? Today we're going to recap the story of the movie Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It starts way back in 1982 at the original Freddy Fazbear's, during what's supposed to be a normal kid's birthday party. That's where we meet Charlotte, the one kid not running around like a sugar-powered maniac, just parked in front of the stage waiting on her favorite animatronic. Vanessa pulls her away for cake, but Charlotte notices something way worse than bad frosting. A guy in a spring Bonnie suit quietly hurting another kid toward the back. And no, this does not look like part of the show. Charlotte does what the adults should have done and tries to warn them. Naturally, nobody listens because she's a kid and the grown-ups are professionally oblivious. So she goes to check it out herself. Genius move. Vanessa tries to stop her, but Charlotte pushes past and heads into the back halls, where she finds William Afton casually washing something at the sink like he's not doing serial killer chores. He steps away for a second, Charlotte grabs the kid and they run, until Afton throws the suit back on, pulls a knife, and gives chase. Charlotte almost makes it back to the stage. Almost. She saves the kid, collapses in front of everyone, and right on cue, a trapdoor opens as the Marionette rises up holding her body. The whole thing gets written off as an accident. Afton walks, and just like that, the worst spirit in this franchise gets created because nobody wanted to listen to a kid for 5 seconds. All right, fast forward about 20 years, and shockingly, Freddy's trauma did not stay buried. Vanessa wakes up to a call from Mike, which tells us two things immediately. One, they've been keeping in touch since the whole haunted murder pizzeria incident. And two, neither of them has processed that properly. They plan to meet for dinner later, and Mike insists it's not a date, even though his little sister Abby clocks it as one instantly, because kids can smell denial from a mile away. While Abby heads to school, Mike's buddy Jeremiah stops by to help fix up the house and starts poking around about what really went down at Freddy's. Mike shuts that down fast. Translation: I'm coping by pretending none of this happened. Meanwhile, Abby is on the school bus trauma dumping the entire Freddy saga to her classmates like it's campfire gossip. She's not scared, she's nostalgic. She straight up wants to go back and hang with the animatronics again, except they're still busted and Mike keeps promising to fix them, which he absolutely has not done. At school, her teacher, Mr. Berg, is hyping up the science fair, but nobody cares because FazFest is happening the same day. Turns out Mike's Aunt Jane scared the town with killer animatronic stories, which somehow turned into free marketing. So now Freddy's is getting resurrected for profit. Capitalism stays undefeated. Abby's building a mini Chica robot for the fair, but Mr. Berg decides to be that guy and kicks her off the list because he thinks she'll mess it up for everyone. One of her friends points out the obvious. If she can build this, why hasn't she tried fixing the real animatronics? Light bulb moment. Bad idea unlocked. Back home, Abby asks Mike if she can go back to Freddy's. He gives his usual non-answer and leaves for dinner with Vanessa, where they awkwardly dance around the fact that this is very much a date. The second Freddy's comes up, the mood dies. Vanessa thinks Mike should finally tell Abby the truth. Mike dodges, flips the script, and starts talking about Vanessa's nightmares instead. When Mike gets home, he finds a note from Abby saying she went back to Freddy's, because of course she did. He rushes over and finds her sitting alone in front of the stage, devastated, because the animatronics are gone. No bodies, no robots, just vibes. To cheer her up, Mike lets her grab something from the prize counter, and she chooses a Faz talker so she can still hear their voices, which is deeply concerning. On the way out, Mike notices a weird flyer hidden under the Faz Fest posters and pockets it. Meanwhile, we cut over to this team of ghost hunters called the Spectral Scoopers, driving out to Freddy's like they're about to solve the mystery of why nobody ever comes back. The host, Lisa, says they got permission from the security guard, Mike, which is weird, because as far as we know, Mike has never met these three in his life. But sure, let's all pretend this is normal. So they pull up and, surprise, surprise, it's not the new Freddy's. It's the original Freddy's, the one from back in the day. And the security guard? Yeah, he's not Mike. He's a completely different guy who goes by Michael.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Like, hey guys, I just happen to be the exact same guy with a different name, and I also happen to own the same building.
See, now that's some bullshit.
Michael leads them inside and they start their little tour. Lisa's acting like she's already watched every lore video on Earth because she immediately starts explaining the marionette and how it can control the other animatronics like some creepy puppet master. They follow Michael for like 2 steps, and then Rob, the dummy of the group, gets distracted and wanders off into the boat tunnel like he's going on a casual nature walk. The other 2 follow Michael to the stage. He pulls back the curtain and reveals this location's versions of Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie. But Foxy, nowhere to be seen, which is fine, because what's a horror movie without one animatronic hiding like a scared little rat? That's when Lisa hears music playing through her headphones. Michael says it's probably nothing. And of course, Lisa decides to stay and investigate, because that's what smart people do when a spooky sound shows up in a haunted building.
Crazy ass bitch!
She follows the noise all the way to the basement. Meanwhile, upstairs, Rob gets spooked by an exploding light bulb and falls straight into the river, like he's trying to win a Darwin Award. Lisa finally finds this creepy room under the stage, and inside, a little music box sitting in front of a giant present. Like, oh cool, a present. That's not suspicious at all. She picks up the music box, turns it off, and suddenly hears strange noises from inside. As she leans in, the marionette bursts out of the present and grabs her. Alex hears her screaming and realizes things just went sideways. Then out of nowhere, Foxy drops from the ceiling and rips this dude apart like he's a piece of paper. Like, wow, Foxy's really here to do his cardio. Back in the boat tunnel, Rob's trying to escape, but all the little marionette dolls start falling into the water. Before he can get away, they swarm him like piranhas and eat him alive. Yep, that's the life he chose. Turns out Michael always planned this. He wanted them dead. Down in the basement, he finds Lisa now possessed by the marionette, but he books it out the door before she can catch him. The next day, Vanessa's in spin class when she starts seeing visions of her dad in that creepy Springtrap suit.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Nothing says motivational workout like your father's corpse haunting your cardio. So Vanessa decides enough is enough. She goes home, pulls out 4 creepy Last Connections items to her dad, closes the blinds, turns on white noise, and deliberately falls asleep like she's about to go on a spiritual journey or get emotionally murdered. Surprise, surprise. She wakes up back in her old house. And yep, it's another nightmare. She walks upstairs and finds her dad standing at the end of the hallway. She tries to act tough, but when he starts walking closer, she panics and bolts for the door. Of course, the door won't open. Then she tries the kitchen, but William blocks her path like a bad Uber driver, refusing to take her home. So she runs back upstairs and, because FNAF loves twists, she suddenly turns back into a kid. William finds her, but Vanessa finally snaps into survival mode. She turns back into an adult, pulls out the blicky, and blasts him until he falls over the railing. Then she wakes up in her bed like, okay, cool, that was a thing. Meanwhile, at the Schmidt's house, Abby's tossing and turning when her Faz talker suddenly starts talking. It's Chica asking for help, and she says she'll tell Abby where to find them. So Abby hops on her bike and follows Chica's directions across town until she arrives at the original Freddy's. She pulls up and can't believe her eyes. She calls out, and Chica comes out on stage like nothing's wrong. Abby runs up and hugs her like she just reunited with her best friend from summer camp. They spend the whole night playing like it's the good old days. In the morning, Vanessa heads over to Mike's and hears the Faz talker going wild in Abby's room. She goes to check, and Abby jumps out and scares her. Abby shows Vanessa her Chica robot for the science fair, and when Vanessa asks how she built it, Abby says the animatronics helped her. Then she mentions the second Freddy's location, right as Mike walks in with breakfast. Mike asks Vanessa to step outside, and that's when he drops the bomb. He found the flyer and called the number. Turns out it was posted by Charlotte's dad. So Mike knows everything now, and he's mad Vanessa never told him. He tries to say he wants to fix Vanessa so they can move on. And Vanessa understandably says, "Nah, bro, that's not how this works," and storms off.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
The next day, Vanessa goes back to the old Freddy's like she's trying to solve a mystery instead of walking into a nightmare with a welcome mat. She finds Chica on stage, but there's no Freddy, no Bonnie, no Foxy, just an empty stage and a whole lot of bad vibes. She heads down to the basement and finds the Marionette sitting there with its box wide open like it's inviting her to come closer. And of course, as she's peeking inside, the possessed girl starts watching her from above like she's the main character in a horror show. Then Charlotte starts talking through the speakers, annoyed and trapped, demanding Vanessa shut down the perimeter lock so the animatronics can finally leave. Vanessa's like, "Nope," because yeah, that's a terrible idea. And then the spirit rushes her and grabs her before she can escape. Classic. The restaurant basically just goes, "Gotcha." Meanwhile, Abby's at the science fair trying to set up her project, and Mr. Berg spots her and comes running over like he's about to be helpful. But instead of helping, he straight up drops her project on purpose, like a petty villain from a middle school drama. Abby's heart breaks, she turns around, and goes right back to Freddy's because of course she does. Chica hears what happened and gets an idea. If Abby can't bring her friends to the science fair, then Abby can bring the science fair to them. Problem is, the animatronics can't leave the restaurant, so all they need is for Abby to shut down the perimeter lock so they can roam free. Abby follows Chica to the office, sits down at the desk, and starts punching in the code like she's about to win a prize. Meanwhile, Charlotte's spirit threatens Vanessa from another room, telling her to hand over the code or else. Vanessa caves, afraid they'll hurt Abby, and Chica reads the code out while Abby types it in. Boom, perimeter off, animatronics unlocked, and the restaurant's basically just opened the door to chaos. Over in town, Mike goes to see Henry, Charlotte's dad, because he has questions about the original Freddy's. Henry starts telling his side of the story, saying he always suspected something was wrong, and now that they know Afton was a killer, he realizes Charlotte's death wasn't an accident. Mike notices a picture of the river ride and realizes the Freddy's he knows never had one. That's when it clicks. Abby wasn't lying about the original location. Mike calls the school, only to find out Abby's already gone. So yeah, she's back at the original Freddy's. Mike decides he's heading straight there, and before he leaves, Henry gives him another music box to help Charlotte sleep and tells him to leave it at Freddy's if he can. So Mike finds Charlotte's bike right outside like it's just chilling there. Totally normal, and the front door is locked. Of course it is. So he sneaks in through a window like some kind of amateur burglar. He crashes through a pile of junk, ends up in an old storage room, grabs a flashlight, and suddenly discovers the 4 prototype animatronics all slumped against the wall like they just finished a rough shift at a haunted factory. And the best part? He doesn't even notice Lisa's body lying in the darkness. Not even a blink, like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely not a problem. Let's keep walking."
Serious?
Meanwhile, at school, the teacher is busy judging everyone's lame science projects when Abby shows up with Chica like she's entering a cosplay contest. The teacher sees her and immediately decides it must be a person in a suit. Like, no, dude, that's not funny costume day. That's a nightmare with a beak. So he kicks Abby out without even giving her a chance. Classic adult move. But Chica is not about to let that slide. The teacher goes back to his desk to grab keys, and Chica just reaches through the glass door like it's a handshaking situation and yanks him into a classroom. Horrified, he tries to run, trips over a cart, and hides under a table like that's going to save him from a giant robot chicken. Then Chica walks in, grabs him by the ankle, lifts him up, and crushes his head with her giant robot hands. Just like that, one obnoxious teacher down, no more grading to do. Back at Freddy's, Mike is still searching for Abby when he hears weird noises from the kids' cove. He goes to check it out and finds Vanessa tied up in a locker. She tells him everything. Abby ran off with the animatronics, Charlotte is loose, and the girl could be in real trouble. So they need to stop Charlotte, but the security room is on the other side of the restaurant. Their genius solution? Cut through the boat tunnel.
What?
You serious?
Like it's a shortcut in a theme park. As they move through, Vanessa explains the whole Charlotte and Marionette backstory, including how there used to be a music box that kept the spirit calm. which of course reminds Mike of the exact same music box he got from Charlotte's dad. Coincidence?
There's attack. Coincidence? I think not.
Then something splashes in the water behind them. They turn to run, and Mike accidentally falls in, because of course he does. As he's flailing around, a propeller thing comes straight at him, like it's trying to start a blender in his face. Vanessa helps him up just in time, and the balloon boy animatronic almost grabs him, but they manage to escape while it just stares at them from the water like it's disappointed they didn't die. They make it to the security office without running into any more trouble, which is surprising because this place is basically a magnet for bad decisions. But now they hit their next problem. All 4 animatronics are roaming around town like they own the place, and nobody has the slightest clue which one has Abby. That's when Mike gets his genius idea. Since the Marionette can control the others wirelessly, he decides the smartest move is to hack into the system and cut them off. Vanessa heads back into town to look for Abby, but not before grabbing a walkie-talkie so they can stay in touch like actual adults doing a rescue mission. Mike pulls up the tracker, and surprise, surprise, Freddy is already over at Faz Fest, just strolling around like he's a guy in a costume at a kid's birthday party. Meanwhile, Abby and Chica somehow win the science fair because Mr. Berg is conveniently out of the picture, which is honestly the most realistic part of the whole story. Then Mike starts connecting to the tracker, and the Marionette senses it. Of course it does. It's like the thing has Wi-Fi and a grudge. So it decides to wake up the prototype animatronics back at Freddy's and turn them on like, "Oh, you're trying to solve this? Cute."
Women.
Mike finally locks onto Toy Freddy's location at some random house in town, so Vanessa guns it over there like she's the only person with a pulse. Meanwhile, Toy Bonnie is doing the creepy peeping through a kid's window thing like a bad Halloween decoration. And Toy Foxy shows up on the roof like he's waiting for a pizza delivery. Vanessa swerves to avoid him, crashes into a ditch, and for a second it looks like she's safe. She finally gets the car started and bails, because yes, that's the correct reaction. Back in the neighborhood, a woman finds Toy Freddy just chilling in her living room like he belongs there, and she and her husband get cornered behind the couch like they're in a hostage commercial. Turns out Charlotte's ghost is using the animatronics to target adults, which is, honestly, the most on-brand thing this story has done so far. Just when Freddy's about to finish the job, Vanessa crashes in and sends Foxy flying through the window, taking both robots out in one hit. Nice. Meanwhile, Mike's still at the restaurant trying to shut down the system when prototype Freddy shows up like a creepy surprise party. Mike grabs an old mask, puts it on, and Freddy buys it, thinking Mike is one of the animatronics. That trick works until Balloon Boy shows up and starts blasting feedback through the speakers like a broken DJ. Mike doesn't panic. He just rips BB's head off with his bare hands like he's suddenly the strongest guy in town. Then prototype Freddy and Chica show up, and prototype Bonnie starts breaking in through the vents. Mike locks Bonnie back in, rushes to the computer, and finally finds the wireless control settings. Chica lunges at him. He puts on the mask and she backs off. But then prototype Foxy shows up right in front of him, and this time the mask doesn't work. Mike has only seconds to shut off the signal, but he manages to cut it just in time. Okay, so Chica's still powered up, like she's got a full battery pack and zero common sense. Toy Bonnie shuts down right when he's about to attack the mom, which is honestly the most polite thing that Robot has done all night. But Chica, she keeps going. She drags Abby back to her house like she's taking her to a sleepover, and then starts glitching out like a busted Xbox. The Marionette crawls out of her chest like, "Surprise, I'm back," and goes straight for Abby. That's when the rest of the animatronics start waking up like they all got a group text. Mike gets another great idea, which is always a bad sign, and rushes back to Freddy's begging Abby's friends to help. The place looks empty, but that's just because the animatronics are excellent at hiding and terrible at interior design. Meanwhile, Vanessa's truck dies on the way to Mike's house, because of course it does. Then Jeremiah shows up like a random plot convenience and offers her a ride. They get to Mike's and Vanessa runs inside like a hero, only to hear the Faz talker calling her name. Abby pops out possessed, starts floating, and basically becomes the world's worst ghost child. Vanessa tries to run, gets knocked down, and ends up pinned like she's in a wrestling match with a possessed kid. She begs Charlotte to let Abby go, and just when it looks like it might actually work, Mike shows up with the music box and forces the spirit out. Finally. But of course, the animatronics are already surrounding them. Then the lights turn on and the big surprise appears. Michael Afton, Vanessa's brother, walks in like he's the main villain from a bad sequel. He tells them he's taking over their dad's work and plans to use FazFest as his next target. He even offers Vanessa a chance to join him. When she says no, he orders the animatronics to smoke all three of them. Classy guy. Just when it looks like they're toast, someone starts humming a pirate song, and Franchise Foxy shows up like a savage superhero. He grabs Toy Bonnie and absolutely destroys him. Franchise Freddy shows up too and rips Toy Freddy apart like it's nothing. Toy Foxy tries to come through the window, but Bonnie shows up and tears him to pieces. That leaves only Toy Chica standing, until Franchise Chica walks up behind her and rips her head off with minimal effort. Michael realizes he's cooked and does what every wannabe mastermind does when the plan collapses. He bolts. Unfortunately for him, Jeremiah appears out of nowhere and clotheslines him in the front yard. Inside the house, the animatronics start powering down, twitching and glitching like phones on 1% battery, and Abby runs over, worried. Vanessa explains they're shutting off because they've gone too far from the restaurant, which sounds comforting for about 2 seconds. Then the blonde kid's spirit pops up, tells Abby they're crossing over, and casually drops the worst possible goodbye. Once they're gone, there'll be nothing stopping an old enemy from coming back. Cool, great, love that energy. Before anyone can ask follow-up questions, the animatronics finally die, the spirits vanish, and it looks like a win. Except it isn't. Mike finally snaps at Vanessa for lying to them this whole time, tells her to stay away, and walks off with Abby like this nightmare didn't just ruin everyone's life.
See, now that's some bullshit.
As they leave, the camera reminds us this story hates closure. Michael is gone. He escaped. And Vanessa? Yeah, she doesn't get peace either. The Marionette shows up and hijacks her body like it's claiming a rental. Cut to the franchise location, where 3 random guys stumble on Afton's corpse, still sealed inside the Spring Bonnie suit. They leave, thinking the nightmare's over. Then the eyes light up. Moral of the story, don't trust giant, creepy robots, especially the ones built by a family with a